Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Cotton Grower Magazine's Cotton Companion podcast. I'm Jim Stedman, editor of Cotton Grower, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend and colleague, Beck Barnes. Beck, I know there's a lot of cotton that's already coming out of the fields in South Texas. There are pickers also preparing to run along coastal Texas and down in South Louisiana. And I've seen some reports of 3 to 3.5 bale cotton already down in some of those areas that have where harvest is underway. So we seem to be off to a pretty good start to the harvest season, with a whole lot more to go as growers start wrapping up this final field work here over the next few weeks. And coincidentally, universities and seed companies are preparing their annual show and tell field days as well. So, it's that busy late season time right now.
Yeah, it's busy. It's busy out there, and we're going to be busy. We're going to be traveling, and happy to hear that about South Texas yields being so high at the moment. I hope everybody out there has a good bumper crop. Me personally, I need there to be more cotton acres in the mid to lower Mississippi Delta because there's too much grain out there scattered on the ground, and I had hardly any doves running across my sunflower field this past weekend. There's too much food for them out there. So I need y'all, if you're listening, won't you please think of my mouths to feed I have here in East Memphis. We've got no doves to show for my efforts. So next year, remember that when you're penciling out your cropping plans.
I'm sure they're writing that down right now.
I'm sure that's going to be top of everyone's.
Yeah, plugging that into their calendars for next year.
Yeah. But yes, it's busy out there, and I'm happy to be doing some field days next week, actually. So looking forward to that.
Cool.
Before we move ahead here with the episode, Jim, we got some items of interest. The first thing we want to do is hear from our friends at the American Cotton Shippers Association. Here is a brief message that they'd like to share.
The American Cotton Shippers Association, also known as ACSA, is a trade association primarily made up of cotton merchants, founded in 1924. ACSA members manage the majority of the world's cotton trade, providing services of merchandising, delivery logistics, and risk management to their customers. ACSA will be holding its 101st annual convention in Palm Beach, Florida in June of 2025. For more information on ACSA, including their convention, view their website or Twitter account at Cotton Shippers.
As always, thanks to our friends at ACSA for that message and for their support.
Now, Beck, as you recall in our last episode, we tried to tackle the cotton prices and some of the reasons why they seem to be fluctuating in that 68 to 70 cent range question. Well, in the past 2 weeks, really not much has changed. Prices have spent just a bit more time, slightly above 70 cents than they are below. So as our economist friends might say, maybe that price floor is starting to settle into place. So with that said, we want to turn our attention in this episode to the Cotton Research and Promotion Program, a 50-plus year success story for the U.S. cotton industry that's still working hard on cotton's behalf in the face of lower market prices, higher input prices, inflation, foreign competition, and other headwinds. Quite honestly, like everything else in this industry, it's a tougher job these days. And it's one that has drawn a bit of recent criticism in the industry, especially when it comes to talking about creating demand and the impact that the positive impact that demand could have, should have, will have on this market. So to help update us on some of the current activities, both in marketing and promotion and in field research and other research, we're going to be joined by Bill Gillon, who is president and CEO of the Cotton Board. It's going to be a good discussion. He's going to be with us in just a few minutes, so please stick around because I don't think you're going to want to miss this one. But first, Beck, where does this year's crop stand right now based on the most recent USDA crop progress numbers?
Well, Jim, I'm glad you asked. Let's see. Based on the post-Labor Day report, U.S. crop is still slightly ahead of its 5-year average, with overall crop conditions showing some improvement as we move into the end of the growing season. So to no surprise, the latest numbers show boll set now in 95% of the crop. That is up 6 percentage points since the end of August, and pretty much right on average for the past 5 years. In essence, the crop we're going to get is in the field right now. Open bolls are now reported in 37% of the total crop. That's up 8 percentage points in the past week and 6 points ahead of average for this date. And with 13 of the 15 primary cotton producing states are now ahead of their respective averages. Overall crop condition is showing slight improvement with 44% rated good to excellent, 32% fair, and just 24% as poor to very poor.
And now, as we mentioned earlier, we want to turn our focus to the current status and programs of the Cotton Research and Promotion Program. And to help in that discussion, we welcome Bill Gillon, who is president and CEO of the Cotton Board, to the Cotton Companion virtual studio. Bill, welcome and thanks for taking time to join us.
Absolutely.
Now, Bill, we're now in the 51st year of the Cotton Research and Promotion Program, and that means really and truly it's been around longer than a lot of today's growers have been. Can you give us just a quick history of the program, why it was started, and what the industry was trying to achieve?
Sure, Jim. And look, thanks for this opportunity to talk today. And I'll do the best I can, and certainly follow up if there's anything I leave that needs to have clarification. But I guess I shouldn't start off by correcting you. Is that right?
Okay. Please go ahead.
We love being corrected.
I've got 58 years.
58 years.
Of the
Okay.
program by my calculations. Now we go back here at the Cotton Board. We go back to 1966.
Okay.
Which is when the Research and Promotion Act itself was passed. Then it took them about 2 years as they worked on that to get those referendums all in place and get the initial regulations that started the Cotton Research and Promotion Program going. But we go back to 66 when the act was created, and then the actual beginning of promotions through assessments collected under that act, I think, was more about 1968.
Okay.
And just as a history, there was a forerunner organization to Cotton Incorporated. It was called the Cotton Producers Institute. And it was just similarly a nonprofit organization that was created by the National Cotton Council. And it was it was within the National Cotton Council back in those days to running the program. That all started because polyester was new on the scene, and it was pushing cotton out of a market. And it was reached crisis proportions. And I will say that we had a lot of insightful and foresightful leadership in this industry back in those days. And they decided they had to do something about it. So they, like we all have to, they didn't just let it happen. They went out there and tried to change it. So they started the Research and Promotion Program, which was a unique thing at the time. And ultimately, they kind of pushed forward until the 1970s, early 1970s, when a management review was conducted, an outside management review, and told the industry that they needed to move that program away from the political arm of the industry. So that's essentially the time when Cotton Incorporated was created, just about that time. And they hired an outside president, CEO, moved their offices to New York, and kind of that was to some extent, the birth of the modern Research and Promotion Program as implemented by Cotton Incorporated. And that's kind of the time period that most people look back on. So from there, the program operated, for a long time. I think I've forgotten what year it was, 80 or something like that, or maybe before, when Cotton Incorporated was actually one of the sponsors of the Olympics one year. But dollars don't go as far anymore, but I'll get into that later. I remember Nick Hahn, who was the previous president, used to show up on the Today Show from time to time in the morning. I remember the wrinkle resistant stuff. He was putting stuff in a dryer and pulling it out for the Today Show folks. But you keep going through it and you get up to 1990. And in the 1990s, as we begin to get a shift in the textile manufacturing here in the United States, it began to move offshore, and we began to get more and more imports of cotton containing products. So the industry went back to the Hill and said, we're bringing in these cotton products and we're promoting their sale, but we're not collecting any promotion funds from them. So they are essentially free riders onto our program. At that point in time, it was amended to bring in brands and retailers who are importing cotton-containing products. That was in 1990. That referendum happened, and they were all brought in right around 1991 is when that got off the ground. Right about that time, the total amount collected from this program went from about 40 up to 60 million, almost within 2 years, and then within about 4 years, it was beginning to approach 80 million. So now we're right around $89 million a year that we collect. But on our board, we have producers that have always been on our board as a result of the assessments we collect from producers. But we also have representatives from brands and retailers because we collect almost half, right at half of our assessments from brands and retailers. So people such as JCPenney, Walmart, Macy's, J.Crew, Gap, those type of people. So it was started because of polyester. We had some heydays back when we could really drive television advertising and create a lot of impacts. We had, I think, our per capita cotton consumption in the United States of cotton at one point in time, and this is a long time ago, was very high, the most in the world. It's come down, but we still have probably one of the highest cotton, maybe the highest cotton consumption per capita of any country in the world. But polyester is still out there. It's gone nowhere. It still is our primary competitor, even as new cotton competitors have entered the market now with Brazil and Australia. So we've still got our work cut out for us.
Yeah, very cool, Bill. Now, you mentioned some of the fun stuff that you guys have done or it has gone on promotionally over the years, appearing on the Today Show and things like that. But the cotton research and promotional program has this sort of dual purpose of research, as the name suggests. And so, that's something that you all has been a big part of your mission. So can you kind of highlight some of the types of research efforts that happen out in the field and behind the scenes on behalf of cotton?
Sure, I can kind of give you an overview of that. The Ag Research Division and that team at Cotton Incorporated is pretty amazing. There's a great group of professionals there. There was a great group several years ago, and now there's a great younger group, a group of younger professionals that are very excited and dedicated to research projects helping the industry. So that there's a really great forward-looking future with that group of people. That Ag Research team, funds over 400 research projects a year that are directed toward cotton production. That's a lot to even keep track of. They've been focused on developing improved water uses. Has been kind of the last several years. They've really focused on holistic water strategies. I know they've done a lot of work in the genomic area to try to improve the drought stress tolerance of cotton. That's been an emphasis lately, as has efficient use of fertilizers. So finding ways to use less fertilizer and generate the same amount of yield. Those are just some of the broader categories. Some of the way you remember several years ago, and it was more than a few years ago, but FOV Race 4 suddenly showed up in the El Paso or the far western part of Texas. And that was a great threat to the industry. Well, that Ag Research team got after it. They very quickly started working on that. As a result, from them funding private researchers and others, we've gotten varieties out there that are resistant to FOV Race 4. And the threat that posed to the industry is not nearly as great today. They do that on a variety of diseases. It's one thing, to have a research project that gives us something new that we can go grab and we can point to, hey, that no more contamination in the project, or my yield goes up. It's kind of a harder economic question when the win is we weren't destroyed by a disease that could have destroyed us. That's kind of a harder economic equation, but they do that all the time. And those things that they've saved the industry from you talk about behind the scenes, Beck, that's a lot of behind the scenes work. And they do a great job. I want to talk about one other thing is that we've been working together to get even more funding for ag research projects through Cotton Incorporated and through this program under through the National Institute for Food and Agriculture. Over the last 5 years, the Research and Promotion Program has put $3 million into research projects there, and that's been matched by $8 million from the federal government. So we've turned, something into an $11 million additional set of ag research activities that are going on. And all those things are picked and driven by the ag research team at Cotton Incorporated. They just do great work. And I know the growers are very familiar with them because they hit the road, they hit the fields all the time.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I'm just sitting here nodding along and thinking, I know market conditions are tough and things aren't super rosy out there in the industry at the moment for our growers. But I mean, we're blessed to have research in this country to tackle stuff like you mentioned, the FLV race 4 situation out in far west Texas. So like you say,
I didn't even get over into the product development research team, that works on fiber quality and strength and does a lot of work on contamination and also does a lot of work on improving the fabrics that brands and retailers are able to put on the shelves. There's a whole nother team of researchers that do that.
Yeah. I mean, so in the field and closer to the retail shelf, doing research to improve the product. We're as an industry, we're blessed to have that type of research happening on our growers' behalf for sure. Now, I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about the promotional stuff you're mentioning. We just got done talking about research. Bill, and you are no doubt aware, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, we had a column on our website recently by our dear friend, OA Cleveland. And let me start this question by saying we love OA and we welcome a diversity of opinion on our platforms. And we are happy to have OA as a contributor on our platforms. It's cotton growers platforms, I should say. But to be sure, OA was a little bit critical of the current promotional efforts. He said, quote, "We no longer have any programs to create demand." Again, let me just say, we love OA. OA is of an age that many of our audience members are. And OA, I think when he is typing these things, he's remembering a Fabric of Our Life commercial at halftime of a football game. And he's going, how come I don't see that type of stuff anymore? And it feels like to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth or answer, but it feels like OA is not consuming his media in places that the Cotton Research and Promotion Program are doing some messaging these days. So that is a long preamble to, let me say, the promotion program has certainly evolved over the years from highly visible broadcast TV spots to today's what feels like more targeted efforts that are maybe not as visible to a lot of folks in our audience and in the industry. So what types of promotional programs are currently being used to promote cotton and why?
There's a lot for me to
yeah, that was rambling.
cover there.
Yeah.
Of course, not only is it good, it's also your responsibility to put out different opinions and different perspectives. And I appreciate the fact that you do that and keep on doing it. And OA and other economists out there bring important information and important perspectives to the table. It's okay to be critical of this research and promotion program and say we're not doing enough. It's kind of another thing to say we're not doing anything, and that's just not accurate. I've already gone through a few of the things that we're doing, and you mentioned consumer research, consumer marketing and promotion is the largest portion of the Cotton Incorporated budget. That's where the most money is spent these days. It has to be because it's very expensive to get out there. The world of television advertising has changed dramatically, not only just the amount of money it takes. I mentioned earlier about sponsorship of the Olympics. That cost $10 million back. I think that was 70. Now that I think about it, I think it was back in the 70s, but it cost $10 million. You can buy almost nothing these days on television with $10 million. When you think about insurance companies and others spending from $500 million up, $500 million a year alone just on research. And I know that because you see Geico all the time at Geico. So we have to shift. We have to shift from an economic reality, we also have to shift from a consumer reality. Young people, which are some of the main drivers in clothing, are not getting their marketing messages on television anymore. They're getting it through digital and online inputs. So we are shifting. I know last year, Cotton Incorporated underwent a fairly significant look at the way it's trying to reach consumers. And so now it's shifted into a very strongly digital campaign. Again, we're still trying to draw those warm feelings of cotton and comfort with the people who are out there, they're buying the product. But we're simply trying to reach them in ways that they normally get their information through Facebook, through TikTok, through Instagram, through any way you can. And I know I've noticed it. I've noticed the uptick in Instagram in terms of these very positive influencers talking about cotton. These days, you put out something that you produce out there in the digital world, and you get a small amount of notice. An influencer puts something out there about your product, and they get very significant notice. So we're having to evolve along with the things that make an impact in the market. I certainly don't have. It's not my expertise. The people at Cotton Incorporated are experts in it, as well as the people they contract with to help them. But they have a target. It's mainly younger females. They're going after them to try to sell as much product as possible. We do have to evolve with the times. And so we have to figure out a way to get people where they are, and they are in the digital world. So they're doing everything they can. And there are some early returns that shows that this new approach is having some more impacts, some better impacts.
Yeah, you mentioned returns. I mean, we have just recently published an article on our website, I believe penned by some of the folks at the Cotton Board about, we do have data that shows young folks do in fact have warm feelings and very receptive to cotton messaging.
We've actually done an almost consistently great job of keeping those warm feelings out there, since the 70s. But today, translating that warm feeling into an actual point of purchase activity is a harder thing. It's harder to do. And I know that's what the people at Cotton Incorporated are working on. I know that's what they're focused on, turning that warm feeling into a point of purchase activity.
Yeah. Well, Bill, last one for me here, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Jim. But, I touched on this a second ago, and no secret that here recently it's been tough on cotton growers and for everyone else in the industry. When you look at current price issues, when you look at demand and trade and international competition, you understand why there's been some grousing and displeasure about the industry as a whole, and maybe a little bit about the current programs and demand creation. So what would you say generally to those folks who have expressed criticism about the research and promotion program?
Our industry is facing significant headwinds. They already knew that, so I better not tell them that because they already know it. We see it, we know it, we're following it, we are reacting to it. At least, as we were chit-chatting before we got started, we talked about the horizon of the economic stress that this industry faces. It's different from some of the horizons we've had in the past. We've got new entrants in the cotton competitive market internationally, with particularly Brazil and Australia here lately. Polyester capacity in China seems to do nothing but increase. And therefore that pie that we got out there for our product we've got to grow the cotton pie. We have to. So we have to find new and better ways to do that. We are reacting to the stress that's being felt out there. We're accelerating our efforts. We're shifting our focus. The research and promotion program is taking a very hard look at the strategies that we employ to create demand on the one hand and to reduce producer costs on the other hand. We think those are the two areas that we really have to focus on and have to figure out, are we doing exactly the right things to have the most impact? It's one thing to do good things. It may be another thing to do the best thing. And so I'm not suggesting that we're not doing good things right now, because all evidence points to the fact that we are doing good things. Can we do better? I think in the world of competition that we're facing now, the way things are evolving, particularly internationally, we have to find ways to do better. Our dollar has to have more of a hit today, maybe even than it had 5 years ago. So that's what we're trying to do, Beck. We're talking to each other. All four of the national organizations are looking at their strategies, trying to evaluate their strategic efforts and just the way we're approaching it first. And then from there, we can get down to the implementation stage. We've got 150 great professionals at Cotton Incorporated that absolutely know how to do that. So we just want to be sure that the roadmap that we have is the right roadmap.
Yeah, definitely, Bill. And I know, obviously, we've seen here in the past week the industry kind of come together on messaging for this, and that's an important thing, because not always, as we were discussing earlier before we started, every group has their own priorities and their own pieces of responsibility within this market. But we're sort of at a point right now where things are happening that, internationally and financially and economically and politically, that impact everybody. And it's important to have sort of this industry-wide cooperation, visible cooperation. What are you hearing, and what's the feel from the other organizations on this right now?
The national organizations that I'm talking about, Cotton Incorporated, Cotton Board, National Cotton Council, and then Cotton Council International.
Mm-hmm.
The feel is, we've got to grab our hammers, go out there and start cracking some rocks. I mean, we have to generate the kind of things that are going to strengthen our industry. Then like you said, we each have our own particular mission, our own particular set of guidelines, a particular set of things that we can and cannot do within the structure of our organizations. All four of us have better do all of those things in the best way that we can in order to get through this. And have every confidence. Matter of fact, I know we will, because this industry has done it repeatedly over the years. And we're going to do it again. We just have to be very realistic about the challenges that we're facing. These aren't the same challenges we've had in the past. These are different challenges. And we have to rise to them, and we will rise to them. A lot of these challenges we've been anticipating, and we've worked toward. We talk about sustainability hurdles. We talk about traceability hurdles that has been kind of new on the scene. These are difficult challenges. Sustainability, I think U.S. growers are very sustainable already.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about getting that messaging out. Traceability of cotton from the spinning mill forward, that's something entirely new that we've had to tackle. But we are tackling it. And we've got, the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol has got some answers to that. We have answers to these challenges as they come up. But we have got to increase that cotton pie internationally. That's one thing that we have to do on the research and promotion side. And on the policy side, the National Cotton Council is going to do everything it can to be sure that growers are going to be there, and they're going to have the kind of safety net that they need to get through these difficult times. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I've seen it happen 4 or 5 times over the course of my professional life, where we hit the slow part, of the economic cycle, and then we pull ourselves back up, and things are stronger. So we'll get there, and we're going to put everything we've got into it.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, when you look at, excuse me, the history on this, is we may go in with some very strategic goals and strategic programs in mind, but it's good to have those in place, and I'm glad they're in place. But at the same time, there's a certain amount of reaction and flexibility that you've got to have these days in order to adjust to things that you just can't see coming over the horizon. And you guys have done a great job so far in adjusting and being flexible enough in that. And I think for the betterment of the industry.
I appreciate that. And I think we have, there are evolutions in world trade, international trade right now that I haven't really necessarily seen in my, 40 years of professional experience. The way trade is happening right now and the way it's evolving is not anything I necessarily anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really happening, from the strain on logistics to the difficulties we have with China, which was once, our most important market, to the necessity of creating more manufacturing back in this hemisphere in order for our long-term success. We all know what those challenges are, finding ways to be sure that we adapt to them quickly and turn them to our advantage. That's the mission in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know the program's got several outreach programs in place where growers and other folks interested in the industry can go for updates and information on what's currently happening. Can you tell us about some of those and how folks can find them?
Absolutely. The first place I'll start would be the Cotton Board website is a good point to start. We actually have a specific section there called Stakeholder Transparency that we've worked on for 5 years or so to be sure that the stakeholders, the people who pay into the program, can go to that place in the website and see how their money is being spent, where the focus is, and just learn more about what we're doing. I mean, we want the stakeholders in this program to know what we're doing. Beyond that, we put on something called Cotton and Coffee the third Tuesday of every month. I'm sure y'all have been there most Tuesday. I managed to get onto that at 7:30 in the morning with usually my first cup of coffee. Growers in this part of the world anyway are already out in the fields, whereas the Californians, 5:30 is still pretty early. But we put that program on, and we've had just great presentations. And because we do it every month, we're able to do some specifics and not just paint with a broad brush on all those programs. So I think they're very informative, and we've had a really good following. They're recorded. They're available on YouTube if you miss one. So you can check that out. We have columns in industry magazines like Cotton Grower, as you were aware, under either our regional communication managers write them, or Barry Worsham has penned columns. I mean, we do this quite frequently. The Cotton Incorporated website, is just teeming with information, as well as they have a website called Cotton Cultivated, which is particularly turned toward growers. Mm-hmm. That has, I think there's weather information out there. There's a lot of production facts and information out there. They're great sources of information for what we're doing and to help growers get through the year. Our regional communication managers, we have 4 across the belt. They speak regularly at regional cotton meetings. They speak regularly at GINs. They're available to make presentations and to talk to growers one-on-one. Anything that anyone wants to know about what we're doing, they're out there. And the leadership of Cotton Board and Cotton Incorporated. I mean, we go out and speak as well, particularly at the national meetings, but we go to regional meetings. Anytime we're invited, I'm going to say yes to any invitation I get, and I'm going to head out. But I have heard myself speak, so I can understand why I don't get that many. But this is about letting this, when I say stakeholders, I mean every single company, every single grower, every retailer that's paying money into this organization. They're my boss. They're the people I have to be responding to. I feel that very personally and very deeply, as do my staff. So we want them to know how we're spending our money. We don't have any secrets here, and we want to do the best job we can with those funds. We will continue to improve what we've done.
Sounds good. Well, Bill, I think with that, we're just going to wrap up this discussion. You've got things to do, but again, thanks again for taking time to join us on this. We certainly appreciate that, and look forward to catching up with you again real soon as we head into harvest and see where we end up with this season and looking ahead to next year.
It's going to be a very interesting fall and early winter.
Yes, it is. It always is. All right, Bill, thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
Take care. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, all right. Now that's it for this episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. We want to give a special thanks again to Bill Gillon for joining us in today's discussion. We want to say thank you as well to the American Cotton Shippers Association for their continued support and sponsorship of the Cotton Companion. And as always, we want to say thank you, dear listener, for joining us. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. And if you like what you've heard, please be sure to spread the word. Tell your farming friends and neighbors about the Cotton Companion podcast. Here's where and how they can find us.
You can find the Cotton Companion in 3 easy ways. First, go to cottongrower.com/companion or simply click the podcast tab at the top of the homepage. Second, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts these days. And 3, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-News, that's delivered to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. You can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, be sure to follow Cotton Grower on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter. And on Facebook, you'll find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine.
Cotton Companion Podcast is produced twice monthly by Tyler Hatch and Kim Henderson, our talented colleagues at the world headquarters for Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. I'm Jim Stedman, he's Beck Barnes, and we'll be back with you in a few weeks with the next episode of the Cotton Companion. Till then, stay safe out there.
Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works all day. God made a farmer